A very good morning. You're watching World News and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will travel to Poland on Friday to meet with his Polish counterpart Donald Tusk. The leaders will discuss a new defense and security agreement between the two countries.
The new UK-Poland treaty aims to strengthen cooperation between the nations when it comes to protecting Europe from Russian aggression and tackling people smuggling gangs. According to Starmer, the time has come to, quote, take the Polish-British partnership to the next level. He also said that closer collaboration with allies such as Poland will protect the UK's national security.
Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson arrived in Berlin on Friday for talks with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Friedrich Merz, the leader of the German Christian Democratic Union Party. The situation in Ukraine and support for the war-torn country will be at the top of the agenda of the meeting between Kristersson, Scholz and Merz. In addition, the three leaders will discuss European competitiveness and transatlantic relations. Iran and Russia will agree to a strategic partnership deal on Friday morning. The cooperation agreement is to be signed in Moscow by Russian President Vladimir Putin and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian.
The deal covers a 20-year-long time frame and details cooperation in the fields of security and defense. The pact is not intended to create a military alliance, according to Iran's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Tehran and Moscow strengthened ties after the 2022 full-scale invasion of Ukraine, with Iran supplying Russia with Shahed drones.
It's time to scrap European Union sanctions against Russia. This is what Prime Minister Viktor Orbán announced on Friday.
In an interview with Hungary's state radio, Orbán said that the EU will have to adapt to a new era when Donald Trump takes office on January 20th. He also added that the EU should build a new relationship with Russia that is free of sanctions.
Three of the lawyers representing the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny have been jailed with sentences between 3.5 and 5.5 years in extremism case. Three lawyers for the late Alexei Navalny were found guilty on Friday of belonging to an extremist group and jailed for between 3.5 and 5.5 years. They were tried behind closed doors. Vadim Kobzev, Igor Segunin, and Alexei Lipster were arrested in October of 2023 and added the following month to an official list of terrorists and extremists. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, has reportedly ordered migrants on the Polish-Belarusian border to be relocated back towards Russia. A colonel at the Polish border guard said that this move may come in preparation for the presidential election in Belarus as Lukashenko aims to maintain peace in the country. The election is set to take place on January 26th. The first weeks of January marked a calmer time on the border as a smaller number of migrants tried to cross into Poland, according to the Polish border guard representatives. Romania has announced that its national airspace was breached during an overnight Russian attack on neighboring Ukraine. In response, Romania scrambled 2 fighter jets to monitor the attack from the air.
Russian drone fragments were found in the southeastern county of Tulcea, according to the Romanian Defense Ministry. This is not the first time such an incident has taken place in Romania, which shares a 650-kilometer border with Ukraine. Drone fragments and airspace breaches have occurred regularly over the past year and a half as Moscow attacks Ukrainian port infrastructure.
All North Korean soldiers in Russia's Kursk Oblast could be killed or wounded in action by April of 2025, according to the Institute for the Study of War. A report prepared by the Institute for the Study of War says that North Korean troops have been suffering approximately 90 casualties per day since they were deployed to fight Russia's war in Ukraine in December of 2024. The study suggests that if the situation remains unchanged, the entire contingent of 12,000 North Korean troops could be killed or wounded in action by mid-April 2025. According to South Korea's National Intelligence Service, 300 North Korean soldiers have already been killed and 2,700 wounded so far. Finnish military intelligence chief General Pekka Purunen has claimed that Russia, preoccupied with its war in Ukraine, currently lacks the military capacity to pose a significant threat to Finland. According to the official, reinforcing Russian forces near the Finnish border could take years, even after the war in Ukraine ends or is frozen. In a report released Thursday, Finland's military intelligence department stated that Russia is likely to prioritize the northwestern region post-conflict and accelerate military reforms. Russia's ongoing plans include expanding its army to 1.5 million troops and re-establishing the Leningrad military district near Finland. The department noted that achieving this goal amid Russia's demographic challenges would be difficult, but not impossible. The report also highlighted Russia's intent to destabilize Finnish society through non-military means and influence NATO policies, particularly regarding alliance infrastructure on Finnish territory. Russia's ultimate goal, the report warned, is to force the West to accept a division of spheres of influence in Eastern Europe, which could have unpredictable long-term consequences. Polish Deputy Foreign Minister Władysław Teofil-Bartoszewski recently spoke about the need for countries to increase defense spending while discussing European security on TVP World's On the Record.
To look at it more historically, President Obama said you have to spend more than 2% on defense. President
and nobody listened to that.
Nobody listens to that. It's only when President Trump uses the language, which is rather forceful, that people start thinking, oh, well. And I had discussions a year ago in Berlin about the need to spend 3% on defense by Germany, which they were spending about 1.3%
at that time.
And they said, oh, no. I said, you have to start spending 3-4% on defense, otherwise you are going to spend 8% on defense. And I was told by a very senior politician, we never spent 8% on defense. You must be crazy. And I said, if you have Russian forces on the Oder River, you will. And he said to me, oh, yes, then we will. I said, by then it'll be too late.
Right.
So now so President Trump identified the problem that we must have control of this naval passage between Greenland and Europe. In other words, have enough ships available there. Otherwise, we may end up with tremendous problems. So now we have to start thinking.
You can watch the full episode of On the Record on our YouTube channel. Methane released from the damaged Nord Stream pipelines in the fall of 2022 spread across much of the southern Baltic Sea and lingered for months. Researchers from the University of Göteborg and the Voice of the Ocean Foundation reported that the damage caused significant environmental consequences. Scientists estimated 9,000 to 15,000 tons of methane entered the Baltic, with levels 1,000 times higher than usual immediately after the late September of 2022 explosion. Elevated concentrations persisted in some areas for months, potentially affecting 23 marine protected zones. Initially, it was believed that the gas escaped only near Denmark's Bornholm Island, where leaks occurred. However, measurements revealed methane spread from Denmark's Zealand coast to Poland's Gulf of Gdańsk, covering 14% of the sea with concentrations up to 5 times above the normal. According to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the Russian sanctions from the Biden administration were, quote, not fulsome enough.
I believe that the sanctions regime, especially, well, first of all, I would say in my adult life that the tragedy going on in Ukraine is one of the greatest tragedies of my adult life. And ending that as soon as possible, and any role that Treasury can play in that, if confirmed, I would like to do. As we discussed, I believe that the sanctions were not fulsome enough. I believe that I believe that the previous administration was worried about raising U.S. energy prices during an election season.
A 2-day convention of the European People's Party, or the EPP, will begin in Berlin on Friday afternoon. Among the topics to be discussed will be the defense, the competitiveness of the EU economy, and the need to simplify bureaucracy in the European Union. The convention will bring together most of the EPP's EU leaders. The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has announced her attendance in Berlin, marking her first in-person commitment since being hospitalized with severe pneumonia. Friday's session will focus on the competitiveness of the EU economy. Saturday's panel, on the other hand, is expected to focus primarily on defense discussions, especially since an informal summit on the topic, convened by European Council Chief Antonio Costa, will be held near Brussels on February the 3rd. Regarding defense, the EPP's position is that the EU needs specific legislation and should move away from projects based on voluntarism. Member states should also decide on a number of flagship projects that should be jointly implemented, such as the European Air Defence Shield and the East Shield to defend the EU's eastern border, which Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is seeking. Moving to the Middle East, Israel's security cabinet is set to convene on Friday morning to approve a new ceasefire deal with Hamas.
The Security Cabinet will convene in Jerusalem around 10 a.m. local time to approve the deal. Although celebrations over the ceasefire agreement broke out all over the world already, it will not officially come into effect until it is accepted by both sides of the conflict. The deal was signed by representatives of both Hamas and Israel in Doha in the early hours of Friday. But Israel's acceptance of the deal will not be official until it is approved by the Security Cabinet and government.
French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in Lebanon on Friday for a visit aimed at helping speed up the formation of the country's new government. This is his first trip to the country since 2020.
Macron's visit follows the election of Joseph Aoun as president on Thursday, ending a 2-year vacancy. France, together with its American and Saudi counterparts, has played a key role in helping break Lebanon's political deadlock. According to the French president's office, the purpose of Macron's trip on Friday is to underscore the importance of Lebanon's sovereignty, as well as to help the country with the introduction of economic reforms that would restore international confidence.
SpaceX's Starship rocket lost communication and disintegrated midair during its latest 7 test flight. Despite the failure, the first section of the rocket, the Super Heavy booster, successfully landed for the second time, caught by mechanical arms at the launch site. The spacecraft launched at 11:30 p.m. CET from SpaceX's Boca Chica facility in Texas. After separating from the booster and reaching an altitude of 146 kilometers at over 17,000 kilometers per hour, Starship ceased transmitting data 8 minutes into its flight and was declared lost. SpaceX later confirmed an unplanned rapid disassembly. The mission, intended to deploy stimulated Starlink satellites into orbit, was cut short before complementing its main objectives. Despite setbacks, SpaceX emphasized that the test's importance in improving the rocket's reliability, highlighting recent upgrades including larger fuel tanks and improved propulsion system. Film director David Lynch, known for hits such as Twin Peaks and Mulholland Drive, has died at the age of 78, his family has said. A post shared on the filmmaker's Facebook page reads, "It is with deep regret that we, his family, announce the passing of the man and the artist David Lynch. We would appreciate some privacy at this time." The cause of his death has not been shared, but Lynch had spoken publicly about his battle with emphysema, a lung disease with no known cure due to his past as a smoker. In August, the director revealed that he was diagnosed with illness in 2020. His death comes just days before his 79th birthday. And with that, we end our news service, but please do stay tuned here on TVP World, as we're back in just a moment with more news and features.